All right, ready to go deep on a single story with me today?
Always up for a deep dive, especially when it's a juicy one.
And this one is juicy, believe me.
Mm.
We're taking on Harmony and Chaos, a tale of faith, trust, and redemption. It's an audio drama, fictional, from the podcast of African Tales.
Ooh, sounds intriguing already. Love those big universal themes. Faith, trust, redemption. They always make for a good story, don't they?
They really do. And this story takes them on in such a human way.
Hmm.
We've got these two characters, Dara and Femi. Dara, on the surface, she's like this perfect Christian woman, very devout, looking for a husband who shares her faith.
The classic good girl image. Bet there's more to her than meets the eye.
Oh, there absolutely is.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's Femi, claims he's left his wild days behind, found peace in the church, trying to turn over a new leaf. Seems like the ideal match for Dara, right?
On paper, maybe,
Yeah.
but we all know those picture-perfect couples often have the most to hide.
Exactly. And Femi is definitely hiding something. He's got this whole secret life, a past he's convinced Dara would never accept. So he keeps it all bottled up. Makes you wonder how much of ourselves we hide in relationships, right?
It's almost like a performance sometimes, isn't it? Putting on a front to fit the mold, to meet those expectations. But you can't keep up that act forever.
No, you can't. And the story really shows what happens when that facade starts to crumble.
Mm.
Now, even though Dara's friends have their doubts about Femi, she falls head over heels for him. The whirlwind romance, the big, beautiful wedding, the whole fairy tale setup.
Classic setup for disaster. You just know something's got to give.
You got it. And that's when the mask starts to slip. We see Dara maybe isn't the angel everyone thought she was.
I know it. There's always more beneath the surface. So what happens? Does she backslide? Does she go full rebel?
She starts slipping back into her old ways, drinking, partying, even gets into it with Femi. It's like this whole other side of her is bubbling up, and it's not pretty.
Ah, the duality of human nature. It's fascinating how often we try to suppress those parts of ourselves that don't fit the image we want to project.
Right, and it's like she can't deny who she really is any longer. And this other character, Pinky, she represents that life Dara supposedly left behind, before she got all religious.
So Pinky's like the bad influence, the devil on Dara's shoulder, so to speak.
Kinda, yeah. But she also pushes Dara to confront her true self, even if it's not the most flattering version.
Interesting. It's like she's a catalyst for Dara's self-discovery, even if it comes in a roundabout, maybe even destructive way.
Exactly. And it all comes to a head in this big blowout fight between Dara and Femi. He's all about judging her behavior, which is pretty hypocritical considering he's got his own secrets, right? It gets ugly really fast.
Oh, I bet. The truth always comes out eventually, doesn't it? What happens? Does he confess? Does she walk out?
Both, actually. They go at it, calling each other out for their hypocrisy. All their baggage comes tumbling out. And then Dara's father gets involved. He totally disapproves of her behavior. It's like the whole family implodes.
Wow. Talk about a wake-up call. It's like they built this house of cards on secrets and lies, and it all comes crashing down.
That's a perfect way to put it. The consequences are really heavy. Dara ends up getting kicked out of her father's house and decides to go for a divorce. It's like this huge turning point.
Heavy stuff. So where do we go from here? Is there any hope for redemption, any chance for these characters to pick up the pieces?
That's where things get really interesting. Because even after all that, even after the separation, Dara is filled with regret. She misses Femi, and she's starting to realize she made some mistakes.
Interesting. So is it just a matter of going back, apologizing, and pretending like nothing happened?
Not quite. And this is where Pinky, of all people, gives her some surprisingly good advice. Pinky tells her to be honest with herself and with Femi about who she really is. No more pretending.
Pinky, the voice of reason. Didn't see that coming. Guess even the so-called bad influences can have moments of wisdom.
Right. It's like everyone has a role to play in this whole messy journey of self-discovery.
And sometimes the most profound insights come from the least expected sources. Makes you think, doesn't it?
It really does. Yeah, it's like that moment you realize, I've been trying to fit into this box that wasn't made for me. And it really gets you thinking, right, about those times when maybe you felt that pressure to be someone you're not.
And it makes you think about the cultural context, too, like Dara's desire for a God-fearing husband. It's not just about love, right? It's about societal expectations, what her family and community expect of her.
Yeah, you can't forget about her dad in all of this either. He was the one who kind of pushed her towards Femi in the first place. And then when she doesn't meet his expectations, he's the one who shuts her out. It's heavy stuff, man.
It really highlights how much pressure we face, especially within families, and how that can shape our decisions, especially in relationships.
It's like Are we really making choices for ourselves, or are we just trying to please everyone else? And the story really digs into that tension between, like, personal freedom and those societal norms.
And it doesn't shy away from the hypocrisy that can exist, especially within religious communities. I mean, Femi judging Dara for her behavior while he's got his own skeletons in the closet. Come on, man. Talk about a double standard.
Totally. It's like the story's calling us out, asking, are we really practicing what we preach?
Makes you think about your own life, right? Like, how quick are we to judge others without looking at our own flaws? It's easy to point fingers, but are we willing to turn that same critical lens inward?
It's like that whole let he who is without sin cast the first stone
Yeah.
thing, right?
Oh.
We're all flawed. We all mess up.
Hmm.
And judging others while ignoring our own shortcomings, that's a recipe for disaster.
And while Dara's wrestling with all this, Femi's going through his own stuff, you know? Like, he starts to see how hypocritical he's been. And more importantly, he realizes that loving someone means accepting them, warts and all.
Yeah, it's cool how they both kind of go on these parallel journeys of self-discovery, right? They both got to let go of these idealized versions of themselves and of each other if they want to build something real.
And that's where the idea of compromise comes in, right?
Yeah.
And acceptance. It's not about finding the perfect partner, but about finding someone who sees you, accepts you, and wants to grow with you through the good and the bad.
So while Dara's working things out with Pinky, Femi's doing some soul-searching on his own. Realizes he messed up by hiding his past from Dara, and decides he wants to build a relationship based on honesty. No more secrets.
Which leads us to that big moment, right? The second proposal. He goes back to the same place where he first popped the question, but this time it's different. This time it's about real love, acceptance, the whole package.
And Dara says yes, of course. It's this beautiful moment of reconciliation, but it also makes you wonder, like, can you really wipe the slate clean? What does it take to rebuild that trust once it's broken?
It makes you think about your own relationships, those times when you had to rebuild trust, maybe renegotiate expectations. It's tough, man. But the story shows us that it is possible to find a way forward, even when things get messy.
It's not about just saying, I'm sorry, or making some grand gesture. It's about actually understanding the hurt you caused, taking responsibility, and showing that you really want to change.
Makes you think about your own relationships, right? Like those times when you had to rebuild trust, maybe figure out how to move forward after some pretty big screw-ups. Not always easy, is it?
Not easy at all. But this story, it kind of shows us that it is possible. You can find a way, even after things have blown up.
And it's not just about romance either, is it? This whole idea of harmony and chaos, it applies to everything, right? Like your job, your family, even what you believe in.
Totally. There are always going to be challenges, setbacks, times when you just want to throw in the towel. It's life,
It's like life is just one big curveball after another sometimes. But what if instead of fighting it, resisting the chaos, what if we learn to, embrace it?
Embrace the chaos.
Yeah. What if all those messy, unpredictable moments, what if those are actually, opportunities,
Yeah.
chances for you to grow, to change?
That's a pretty different way of looking at things.
It is. It's like those challenges, those setbacks. They're not roadblocks. They're like stepping stones, part of the journey.
Okay, I like that. Stepping stones.
And that brings us back to the title, Harmony and Chaos. It's reminding us that life isn't about being perfect, about avoiding conflict. It's about learning to ride the waves, to find those moments of peace and joy even when everything's crazy.
It's about learning to dance in the rain.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where faith comes back in, not just in the religious sense, but like a belief in something bigger than yourself. Trust in the process, even when you can't see the whole picture.
I love that. Trusting the process. Surrendering to the unknown, even when it feels chaotic. So as we wrap this up, I want you to think about this.
Okay, shoot.
Where do you find harmony in your own chaos? What are those moments, those challenges, even those screw-ups that have made you who you are today?
Great question. And how can you learn to embrace the messiness, the unknown? Can you do it with a little more faith, a little more trust? Can you accept yourself, flaws and all?
That's what it's all about, right?
Yeah.
Accepting ourselves, accepting life's imperfections.
Absolutely. Because life isn't about being perfect. It's about those moments of harmony. Even in the midst of all the beautiful chaos,